Hello, welcome to your first video lesson from Mr. C. If you have your math notebook open and you are writing your name, and you have the date, and you are specifically underlining the title right here, your notes should look like this. Remember that directly under this, you should write notes vocab. Now we're going to go on to the next slide. If you need more time on this slide, please pause the video. Alright, now we are on to the next slide. This one is notes vocab. And as you see, you should copy this place value chart into your notes. This might take you a little bit, and so I'd recommend that you pause the video. This will give you more practice with place value, and if you ever need to know what the place value is, you can go back to this chart in your notes. If you need to pause the video, please do so now. Alright, and now we're on to our first example. Notice how there's not notes written up there. That means that I'm going to do the example and you don't need to write anything. I am going to ask you to think about or talk to your partner about some things during this video and during this example. So, let me read the problem first. Today we are comparing and ordering whole numbers, and that's our goal. And the question we ask is, how can you compare numbers? We're going to use the data in the table to compare the heights of the buildings. Which is taller, the Petronas Towers or the Sears Tower? Okay, so I'm going to look at this table over here, and they asked us a specific question, and they only want me to look at a Petronas Tower and the Sears Tower, so that's all I'm going to care about. So now I'm looking over here, and I know I'm only going to care about these two values. But the question is, how can I compare those? I'm going to ask a first question, and I want you to think about it, and if you're with partners, I want you to talk about it. What is the unit for all four of these heights that they give us? Alright, if you talked about it, you should have said the unit you should have gotten from that, which is FT stands for feet. Next question. If the units for the heights are not the same, what do you have to do before you compare them? If they're not all feet, what do you have to do to these units? Now these are all feet, but what if one of them was inches? What would you need to do? You can talk to your partner. Alright, if you pause the video when you were talking, thank you, that's what I want you to do. But you would have needed to change all of them to feet first, because we can only compare numbers if they're in the same units. Alright, so let's talk about how we would actually compare these numbers. I'm going to write them above each other so that I can clearly see the place values. Alright, so we always start at the greatest number, and we're going to compare them from left to right. So here's the greatest number, and we're seeing, are they the same? Well, they are. They're both 1s. Now we're going to go over. These are both 4s. That stands for 400. And we go over here. And I notice that one is an 8 and one is a 5. I'm going to go back to it, and I want to know, do they want... All right, I'm going to read the question. Which is taller, the Petronas Tower or the Sears Tower? Okay, I know that this one is the Petronas. And I know that an 8 is bigger than a 5. And so I'm going to say, I would answer with the Petronas Tower is taller. Now we're going to go on to the next example. Back over here. So we are talking about these numbers. Alright, so we're on to the next example, and still I do not see notes in the top right corner. I see in this example, they don't just want us to compare two numbers. It actually says, order the heights of the buildings in the above table from least to greatest. And so it actually helps us out, and it pulled all the values from the table that I just showed you, just on a different slide. So notice how they put them above each other, because that's the easiest way to compare them. And we looked at the 1s, and the 1s in the thousands place are all the same. So we need to go to the next greatest number. And we notice some differences here. We see a 4, we see a 3, we see a 6, and we see a 4. First, the easiest way is to identify the greatest and the least number. All right, they want us to put it from least to greatest. All right, so we're going to put the least first. Space, space, and I can put the greatest number. After that, we have two numbers left. We already went to the hundreds place, and that solved our first two numbers. But now we need to go to the tens place. And as I see, when I went to the tens place, 8 is bigger than 5. Therefore, I know that I'm going to put 1,450 first, and then 1,483. Make sure you always go back to the problem and see, do they want least to greatest or greatest to least? Biggest to smallest or smallest to biggest? All right, now we're going to go on to the next problem, and you're going to see notes. All right, I see example 1, notes. So if you don't know what your notes should look like, please look at the example on the wall. And before you do this example, I want you to talk to your partner. Which way do you think this goes? You can do that now. Please pause the video. All right, so I was just testing your knowledge of if you know what these mean. All right, I said that if I was going to compare numbers, I want to put them above each other. All right, so I put the numbers above each other over here. This is the one on the left, and this is the one on the right. And I want to know which one is bigger. We're going to start comparing, starting over at this number. And these are all the same, all the same, all the same, all the same. And I see a difference in the tens place. I see a 1 here and a 0 here. That means that this one is bigger, and that's the number on the right. I know it's bigger. So if this one's bigger or greater, which symbol do I put in? Well, the opening always opens towards the bigger number. If you remember that, you are correct. And other examples are an alligator mouth that you may have learned. Now we're on to the next example. If you don't have this written yet, please pause the video, and we're going on to the next example. During this example, I'm going to ask you to do it before me and then unpause the video to see if you got it right. Please pause the video now to order from least to greatest. All right, there's two different ways you could have done this. Welcome back if you already did it. All right, so you could have written it like this with commas in between each number, or you could have written it with less than. So I'd read this: 3,395 is less than 3,964, is less than 4,000, is less than 4,160. That should be your answer. If you don't have this, please pause the video. We're going on to independent work. Independent practice, please get your book. Please go to page 9. Please do numbers 9 through 14. You can pause this video, and I want you to press play when you are ready to get the answers. All right, now we're moving on to the answers. Here are your answers for page 9, numbers 1 through 14. For 13, I don't want you to worry about it. You should have just had an explanation. After you're done checking your answers, please go on to the gas station. Thank you for your first Mr. C video. You're awesome.